I was going to be pulled in many different directions with my job as managing editor and wasn't going to get to concentrate on this. So I did it on my own time, but I was exhausted. I felt horrible, and I'm like, I've got to get this series together. It's important, you know.
I think you did a wonderful job. Just for anybody who doesn't know the origin of the disease.
Ticks. And for me, you know, I had had a tick bite. I had gone to a doctor saying, what is this, you know, and they're like, oh, tick bite, I was already on antibiotics for something else. They're like, so you're fine. And I never gave it another thought, and I didn't even remember that visit until I started working on my series and found in my records about 5 years prior, when I started getting these pains, I had been there for this tick bite. I was like, oh my goodness.
I just think you did such a wonderful job, and I know that there are people out there that you helped, and you know that has to make you feel especially good.
It does.
That in combination with getting an award for that.
There was a woman who saw the series, and she went and got help with one of these what are called Lyme literate medical doctors. She feels great today.
Wonderful.
And you know, to hear stories like that, there have been a number of people. I still get inquiries today. I got hundreds of emails as a result of this series and questions, and I'm giving them as much information as I can, and still today, and so it feels good that I can be helping at least one person, if not more, you know?
I know the feeling. You told me that you were in charge of the studio the day that the Virginia Tech massacre occurred.
It was a bad day.
Would you like to tell our audience what all was involved with that? I know everybody seemed to come in and be there, and
our executive producer was off on vacation that day. Our assistant news director was off on vacation that day, and that week. Both of them were both off the same week, and our news director was teaching college courses, and we were running our 9:30 meeting, and it was we usually go into a conference room, but we were in the newsroom at this day for some reason. There were just 3 of us in there, and we got this phone call. You know, there's been a shooting at Virginia Tech, and of course that was the first shooting.
Right.
And so we're like, okay, called our Roanoke people and said, get over there, there's a shooting, just grab the gear and go, you know, calm, you know, okay, there's been a shooting, we're gonna cover it, you know. Then the calls started coming in, then we started hearing more and more. Then it starts getting, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? We have, you know, we're in Lynchburg. We had 2 reporters and 2 photographers in Roanoke at the time, which is much closer to Virginia Tech, so I'm trying to get them over there as best as I can. Our satellite truck was in the shop, and and it was finished. It was ready to be picked up. I called our satellite truck operator at home. I said, go straight to the shop, leave your vehicle there, go to Blacksburg. And we knew that there was it just was so overwhelming.
I'm sure
to be, you know, trying to get everybody, and then we're trying to get on the air with information and phone calls, and there were just a few of us there, so, you know, all of this information was trying to come in and to try to sort it out and make sure things are covered. And, you know, I'm screaming at the sat truck operator, there's a new live shot, make it, are you gonna make it? And he, you know, it was a 2-hour drive, and I had told him at 10:30 to go, so, you know, you're not making it at noon, and I'm just speed, do anything, get there, you know. And it was just an awful day, and of course an awful thing that happened. And you know, so we're scrambling as finally our news director came in, and he started helping to get some things rolling. And I don't know, that was it still sits with you what happened that day there to all those kids, and then just that whole week of coverage and just getting people to all the stories that were coming out of it, the cell phone video and the newspaper who lost their friends and who were trying to put the newspaper out, and there were just so many stories coming out of there. And we sent you know, almost everybody from Lynchburg there too at one point. You know, we had everybody down there. But it felt bad to be behind the 8 ball when we were at a disadvantage of our location. But we tried and we did our best.
But it was so professionally done. We were having a windstorm, and Amherst County had lost electricity, and I had one little television with batteries, and all I could pick up was WSET.
Well, good.
But I watched all day long the coverage, and I thought you all did it so professionally and so well, and you know, probably better than a studio or a station that was even closer. I thought you did an excellent job.
Tried. You know, we were trying to get phone calls with students on cameras. What's happening now? Tell us. You know, over the air. We call them phoners. you know, we were just doing everything we could to try to cover this as best we could. And for the parents that are wondering, oh my goodness, is my child safe? It was,
It had to have been, I just had to have been a nightmare.
It was very hectic and very, very stressful.
I kept putting myself in the position of those operating room nurses, you know, in the area, you know, what were they going through?
Yes, we had to get somebody to the hospital. What are the conditions? What's, you know, everything.
Yeah, it's
Thanks a lot for bringing that back up.
I'm sorry. But, you know, I think that the stressful things that are handled so well really give you insight into how well you all work as a team and how, you know, how dedicated you are to your job, because if you weren't, you couldn't have pulled that off as well as you did.
That's true. We have a great team.
Yeah. And I do imagine that covering any kind of disaster has to be very tense and stressful for you all. Are you all on call?
Well, if there's something big like Virginia Tech, everything's off. You come in if we need you. No matter where you are, what you're doing, get in here.
Right.
If you're in New York City, of course you can't. But you know, we're not technically. I have to have my work cell phone with me. We all have to have our work cell phones with us 24/7, on and with us. So we're all always on call. But then, you know, like during the week, there is every night a different videographer assigned as the on-call videographer. So if there's, you know, a fuel spill overnight, or, you know, a big truck accident or a big house fire, they'll call that photographer to come in the middle of the night and shoot it.
So it's on-call, specifically some people are
specifically on-call, yes.
You had told me too, when I met you a long time ago, about your relationship with Jerry Falwell, and I think he's such a high-profile figure that maybe the audience be interested in knowing about your relationship with him.
Well, you know, we weren't friends by any means, but certainly friendly. He was a very jovial man. I mean, very, very funny, lighthearted. You know, I didn't always agree with his opinions and statements and some misstatements and things like that, but he was always very friendly. He used to, you know, joke about, you know, my religion versus his, and, you know, I know one time there was I guess anti-violence against gays summit is what it was called, back in the 90s at some point, and you know, all these different groups were coming to Thomas Road to talk about.
Right, I remember.
Yes, and it was big, and they had the horrible hate group there on one corner, and then the Mel White group on one corner, et cetera, et cetera. And you know, we had heard that Jerry Falwell was wearing a Kevlar vest because you know, his life was at risk, safety was at risk. Right. And so I was interviewing him that morning after one event at the church, and I said, well, I hear you're wearing a bulletproof vest. He's rather large. Yes. And he said, no, I'm not. You go ahead, you want to touch it? And I was like, okay. And I just poked his stomach, and then I went, I don't think I should have poked his stomach. It was just a natural reaction, and he didn't mind, you know. And I'm like, yeah, I'm poking him. That was crazy. But yes, I mean, you know, we've always had a cordial relationship, right. And he was always very pleasant to deal with.
And didn't you tell me that you covered some of his funeral, or some?
I was on the news covering the funeral. I didn't physically go. Yeah, I was on the air covering it. And the day he passed away, I was on the air, and I was the one who announced that he had passed away.
We have about 4 minutes, but
Time flies.
I did want to ask you if there's one specific person, doesn't have to be a celebrity, that really stands out that you've covered or interviewed during your career with WSET that was special.
Oh dear. Oh, there have been so many. I mean, I can't point to one specific special person, no, but I've had, you know, I said some very serious and important subjects that I've interviewed, and then fun ones like Pat Sajak and Alex Trebek and Gail King, who was Oprah's best friend, and just kind of, oh, I can't think of his name. So I've interviewed some fun people. Right. You know, I'm sorry I didn't think better about that question, but no, not one specific person, because I really like all the people I've interviewed.
Do you have some quick advice for someone, a youngster who might be interested in this kind of career?
Go to school, study hard, get good grades, go to college, do major in journalism, and learn grammar and spelling and English. I see a lot of problems with that. I see a lot, and I'm proofreading scripts every day, and I'm like, how does this get in this script? I don't understand how some common words are misspelled or misused. It's very frustrating.
And it's very sad.
It is sad.
Noreen, I thank you so much for being my guest. I really think that this is a good show and people will be interested in it. Hope you'll come back again later.
Sure. Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show and meeting Noreen Turyn. My next show will be at a tour of Centra Health's new breast imaging center. This will be aired in October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which, as you know, is something very dear to my heart. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.